everyone, buenos dias, buenos tardes, buenas noches, wherever you are in this beautiful world. And welcome again to a Facebook Live series that I started called I'm Paying It Forward. And today is the last of the series, part 4 of 4. And I'll just wait a few minutes just until everyone starts to come in. And as you do come in, do let me know, say hi, let me know where you're watching from, as I'd love to always know who's tuned in live, as it's such a magical experience, truly, when you're on live. So today I'm broadcasting back from Barcelona in Spain. Last week, as some of you may know that watched the third broadcast, I had a bit of some service interruption on Friday afternoon last week, and I ended up broadcasting on Saturday from France. So for those of you that joined me live or watched it post-live, you'll know that the background was a little bit different. So again, just waiting a few minutes. And for some of you that don't know and are watching for the first time, this Facebook Live series was really inspired by a very good and dear family friend that passed away a month ago. It's just been over a month, who was very instrumental and helpful in me being able to do the work that I'm doing today and to be of service in this world. She looked after both my two children and looked after my home back in London when I was doing all the trainings and workshops and retreats. And so really this is just in dedication to her life and legacy, as I know the work that I'm doing today is mostly in part because she was a part of our life. So for me, this is just an honor to be able to share some of the tips, tools, and lifestyle hacks that I've been able to have an honor to learn from some of the top healers, teachers, and coaches in this world. And so really it's just an opportunity for me to pull back the curtain on some of the things that I've learned and be able to share them with you today. So again, if you're joining, please do say hi in the comment section below. Let me know where you are watching from, and feel free to send me some likes and some hearts as well. So again, just going to wait a few more minutes. This week I actually had to change the timing a bit. So thanks for going with the flow. Normally it's either 6 p.m. and then last week I had to change it to 4 Central European time, and today I changed it again to 2:30 Central European time, just because there's that construction work going on downstairs, and yeah, I just wanted to make sure that wasn't going to be a disruption during the live broadcast. So we are here today live a little bit earlier, and so hopefully some of you will still be able to join me during this time. So if some of you did join me in the past 3 weeks, again, this is the last of a series of 4. The first week I shared and talked about how to deal with stress and anxiety, and the second week talked about how to overcome fear. And the third week, last week, was how to make your dreams a reality, how to go from rejection to redemption. And as I shared on all those broadcasts, is that each and every one of those, no matter where you are in the world, no matter if you're male, female, however old you are, if you're a parent, not a parent, no matter what your job is, these are all a natural part of human life. It's all a part of the human experience. And how can we learn some of the tips and tools in our toolbox so we can better deal with those and be able to access, be able to shift out of, any vibration of stress and fear to come from a more natural state of peace and calm, and to really behave and come and act from this state of serenity. So again, if you're joining us, feel free to say hi, let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to know where you are around the world. This is so amazing, this technology. Last week I was broadcasting in France, and today I'm back in Spain, and it's just lovely to have all these people connecting from around the world. So today, for the last part 4 of this series, I'm Paying It Forward, I'll be talking about how to embrace change. And this is a topic that I know comes quite often with a lot of my clients, and it's something that I've experienced personally. Being an expat now, living abroad for over 10 years, and now living in a really foreign country where the prominent main language is non-English, and how to really embrace the changes in our life, how to step outside of our comfort zone. So we'll be talking about that today, and if you have any questions about some of the things that I talk about, or if you have something particular that's happening in your life, then please feel free to type that in the comment section below and ask me any of your questions, and I'll make sure to address that during the broadcast. So change is really interesting because as for me personally, from my personal experience, as I look back, I realize that I've been embracing change since I was a little girl. Even from a very young age in my early childhood, I went from 2 different homes to 6 schools, and then in my university days I went from 2 countries, 2 schools, and 8 moves, and then from getting engaged to married till today, it's been 2 countries, it's been 5 moves, and 2 kids later. And definitely when I look back and in some of those moments that may have been painful or challenging, like sure, it was hard, it was difficult, and I had all those myriad of emotions and the things that I mentioned earlier: stress, anxiety, fear, and rejection. I had the whole spectrum, and for those of you that have listened to my previous podcasts, you'll know that I definitely can attest to that, and I'm a testament to each and every one of those. But the one deeper question is would I do it again? And the answer is absolutely. Many of us fear change. We are naturally creatures of habit, and but when we are faced with fear, we tend to freeze. We tend to paralyze in the face of fear, and we start to instead of taking action, we feel that the unknown is scarier than sometimes the known of the misery of maybe our current state. But it's really in this inaction state, coupled with stress and anxiety, that really leads to our suffering. And the truth is that growth cannot happen within our comfort zone. We're so used to doing certain things, or maybe our friends or family are our models for us about what maybe is possible, but growth cannot happen within our own comfort zone. And we cannot expect external shifts in our life to happen when there's no internal shifts. So again, we cannot expect any external shifts in our life to happen when we don't have any internal shifts. So again, if you're joining us, please do say hi. Let me know where you're broadcasting from. Send me some likes and some hearts. Hi, Rebecca. And so going back to embracing change, there's just a few things that I'd like you to consider. When you are in a period of actually stress or anxious or fearful about something that's happening in your life. And the first one that I encourage you to think about is accept that life is impermanent. Accept that life is impermanent. We all have the same amount of time in a day. We all have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we all will grow old. We all will grow old, and we all have a finite time on this earth. And it's about coming into acceptance that that is a natural part of every single living being on this earth. Every human being, every animal. Hi, Gina. and accepting that will already take away a lot of the stress and anxiety that stems from our suffering. A second thing is to learn to detach the results of your actions. The second one to consider, and I encourage you to think about when you are going through a state of change, is to detach yourself from the results of your actions. And when we do certain things, we tend to cling to how we expect the outcome to be. And I spoke about this on the first broadcast, part 1, about how to overcome stress and anxiety. And I'm sure it trickled down in all my other broadcasts, is that we really don't have control over what happens outside of us, what other people do. And the only thing that we do have control over is what goes on in here. What happens inside here? What is the experience that we give? What is the meaning that we give to each and every one of our experiences? And how we react and how we behave is ultimately what will the result of our behaviors. And that's just the second point that I encourage you to think about, is detach results of your actions. The third one being is there will always be different seasons in our life. What was once considered safe, important, and necessary in our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, 50s, 60s, that will change. And when I coach clients from different seasons in their lives, and as I see myself going through the different seasons of my life, it's kind of hard. Obviously, it's different for different people, whether you're married, you have children. So there's no really 20s to 30s, and that it's going to be completely different, and that's everyone's season. That should be defined for everybody. That's going to be different for everybody. But you will have different seasons in your life. So, for example, I'm trying to think in my 20s what was considered safe and necessary for me. Well, now that I'm older and I have children, for me, what's safe and necessary is to have, roots for my family, for my children, to have a very good foundation for them, to have a solid foundation for them, to have a school and established roots. In my 20s, I was, ready to travel the world. I did, and I still do. But, I was willing to collect stamps on my passport, see as many places and meet as many people as I could. I was just like this gypsy butterfly, I guess you can call it, and just, wanting to see the world. And that's because all I had to think about was myself. But when I got married, and had children quite young, relatively, that all changed. And now that I'm in my 30s and creeping up to my 40s, which I know is the new 30s, it's a different season in my life, and that will change. So just, think about that, and I encourage you to, maybe even journal. I talk about this a lot, like write things down. Like if there's thoughts swirling in your head, if you're having, some stress and anxiety about a decision you need to make in your life, then write it down. Because a lot of the times, that will come through the writing, and sometimes you'll get, some clarity on, okay, what needs to shift in my life? What needs to be different and shift in my energy and in my priorities now that I'm married, now that I have children, now that one of my parents has passed away, and maybe I have to take on, some other different responsibilities for the family and for the other parent. So just consider that. Again, if you're just joining us, do feel free to say hi and type in the comment section where you're joining us from. Hi, Steve, and sending some likes and hearts just so I know that you can see and hear me okay. And so just going back to, we all have an accepting that life is impermanent and that we're in a constant, change, constant state of flux. None of us know how much time we have on this earth. We really don't. We don't know how much time we have on this earth. And the only thing that we can be certain of is change. Like, we will all change. We will grow old. People will come and go. People will transition off this earth. We will have new friends, and sometimes our old friends, we may distance ourselves from them because we just don't resonate with them anymore, and then maybe we'll come back to each other, and that's a natural part of life. So one of the things that I encourage when I'm speaking to my clients, when they're fearful of change and not wanting to step outside their comfort zone and not wanting to take any action, what I like to say is that if you're feeling those butterflies in your belly, if you're feeling your heart just beat a little bit faster, then sometimes that is a great indication that you're on the right track. That's great. That means that you are stepping outside of your comfort zone. That means that you are living. That means that you are doing something different than you have done before. And you will experience life so differently and, so much more full and beautiful, because you're not just living an ordinary life. You're giving yourself permission to do something different, to be different, to feel different than what you've done before, what you felt before, or what you're used to seeing and feeling from other people around you. Here I am broadcasting from Spain. I've lived over 10 years abroad. I married, a French guy, and my 2 children are completely mixed, which is beautiful in its own right. But, the truth is that I come from very humble beginnings. My father and mother did not get their passport until, they came to visit me when I moved abroad, and my firstborn was getting baptized, and I really, kind of urged them, when are you going to come see me, and, come see your granddaughter, and it means a lot to me. And my parents were just really risk adverse. They just really, went about their life. They worked really hard. They provided for us. They lived by the rules. They lived by the book, however you want to call it, and that resonates for you. And they were risk adverse. And, for me, it's really the life that I have now, and I just feel so grateful for it. It's so different than, I feel like looking back how it would have been if I, if I didn't set in motion. And I was talking about last week how I was rejected from my first choice, my university that I really wanted to go to a little over 20 years ago. If I had not been, super dedicated to that and turned that rejection into redemption, if I had not stepped out of my comfort zone and, okay, fine, I'm going to meet somebody online, and I met my husband online and didn't care about what other people said, if I didn't move my life away from outside of Los Angeles and make that big move to London, and yes, there was some stress and anxiety and fear all around it, and I mentioned that I got shingles when he proposed to me, and the big question wasn't, am I going to marry this man? The bigger question was, who was going to move? Was he going to come to LA? Was I going to go to London? So, all these things, it's such a natural part of life. It's such a natural part of life to change. And, all these things that I've talked about, stress, anxiety, the fear, the rejection, it's really about how can you come from a place of being present with yourself, and what is it really like. Tune into your own inner guidance, your own intuition. What do I want in my life? What do I want to feel? What do I want to embrace in my life? And regardless, irrespective of what other people say or what other people are doing around you, this is your life. And just, accepting that change is natural. And as some of you know, I teach yoga, and one of the styles that I teach is yin yoga, which is a very different, it's a more meditative, reflective practice. It's very different than the yang practice, which some of you are probably more familiar with, where you sweat and you're building your muscles because you're doing repetitive action. Well, yin, you're lying or sitting on the floor doing these poses for an extended period of time, anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. And the practice is really more about training the mind, more than training the body. Obviously, there's all these physical benefits to that practice. But how can you stay within a certain pose, and it's not meant to be comfortable all the time, but how can you stay in that place of discomfort? And if you stay there, if you breathe through it, if you become more present with what you're feeling, then you'll notice that with every breath, things change. And this is one thing that I'm sure one of my teachers said to me when I was in a class, and that inspired me very much so, not just on my mat and teaching yoga, and when I'm, practicing as well. Hi, Joanna. Hi, Magnus. But also in life. Every day our body feels different. One side of our body feels different. The left, the right. Every day, every moment will be different, and it's really about accepting that that's a part of life. And I know this is something that really drove home to me, when some of you that know me personally, or you've heard on my broadcast or been following me on social media or what have you, that a big part of my passion for doing this work, to really move through the dark, to get through all that, to get through the pain and the suffering, and to get to the other side, to get to the healing, to get to the growth, to the transformation, and to all the love and the light that's waiting on the other side, was very much inspired by 2 years ago when my father was on hospice care. And I gotta tell you, all the things that I've talked about, stress, anxiety, fear, rejection on the previous broadcast, as well as change, I felt all of that during that time. It was 8 months that I was going back and forth from London to LA every single month to be with my father. When you see somebody, and I'm sure, we've all had an experience of this, whether it was, a loved one that was a family or a friend, when you see them, they've passed or they transition, you really feel into the mortality of life, and that we don't know how much time we have, and go with the flow and all these things, and live a life of no regrets. And so my just my encouragement to you is to really, again, become present with yourself, how you're feeling and what it is that you want in your life. And really come from that place, because honestly, you really don't have control over what other people are doing or what happens outside of you. And when you come to that essence of peace and, of calm and serenity, and from your own inner guidance and intuition, honestly, that nothing can rock your boat or rock your world or make it come tumbling down. I have to tell you, when my father passed away, that was the most painful and suffering time, most painful, difficult time in my life ever. But through all my, thank God, spiritual practices and tips and tools that I'm giving you on these broadcasts, and thank God, for being so blessed to have worked with, some of the top healers and teachers and coaches in this world, I was able to get through it and come from a place of acceptance. And for me, somebody that's, I do energy healing, I do yoga, I'm a vegetarian, I try to eat as much organic as much as possible. I have to tell you, that was hard for me. That was hard to see my father die, because I thought, I can't save him. I can't help him. Is there a yoga pose I can give him? Some essential oil? Is there some type of, can he see? And he did. He saw some of my healers. And, we tried to do all these things. And I just realized, what? I cannot expect that I just have to come to full acceptance. I cannot change this. And all I can change is what's happening inside here. And through that very most difficult time in my life was the time I ever felt the most peace. I felt the most peace and the most love in my life. And the most feeling of being whole and complete. Through all the chaos of also traveling abroad and feeling like a part-time mother, because I gotta tell you, it was during the time when I was applying for my passport, my British citizenship. And I remember you have to fill out, how many days have you been out of the country? And you had to put all the dates and all these other things. And I put them all down and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been, I think it was 90 days. No, it was obviously more than 90 days. I think it was 120 or something like that, out of the country. And 90 of that, I think it was 90, close to it, was away from my children. And that was hard. That was hard. But again, coming from a place of presence, understanding and accepting that change is a natural part of life, and really embracing that and coming from like what's true for you. Because I knew in that moment when we knew that my father had only 6 months or less to live, I quit certain collaborations that I had for work. I stopped seeing certain friends, and I couldn't commit to going to people's weddings or birthdays. I just knew from that moment, no, this was the priority in my life. This was it. This was it, to be with my father, to see my father. He only had a certain amount of time on this earth, and after that, all the other stuff can come later. So there's just a few questions that I invite you to ask yourself. When you are questioning, is this something that I really want to do? Is this something different that I want to do for my family? Take this job, not take this job, move, not move. There's just a few questions I'd like you to consider. And first of all, come to, a state of, somewhere where you can be undisturbed and quiet. For those of you that do have a meditation practice, great. I'm obviously a big believer in that, and that's something I think I mention on every single broadcast, is to have a meditation practice. And there is no wrong way of doing it. The only wrong way is to not do it. And even if it's just 5 minutes, to start your day in peace. So some of the questions I invite you to ask yourself when you've come to, a place of stillness. And one quick way to get there that I think I mentioned on maybe the first broadcast of stress and anxiety is, so come to a comfortable seat. We can actually do this right now. So wherever you are, if you're on a couch, on a chair, just coming to a comfortable seat, and then placing your right hand over your heart center. So your heart center is the space between your chest. It's your spiritual heart. And placing your left hand over your lower belly, which is about 2 inches below your navel. And then just closing your eyes. So just closing your eyes here. And then I invite you to take 3 deep breaths. So you're going to inhale through the nose. And then open your mouth, exhale. And then 2 more just like that, deep inhale. And open your mouth, let it go. And 1 more deepest breath of your life. And open your mouth, let it go. Beautiful. And just stay here for a few moments. Stay here, just bringing awareness to your breath. Maybe start to notice the sounds around you or any scents. And just bringing your awareness to your breath. And just noticing that when you bring your awareness to your breath, how that instantly calms the nervous system, and how that instantly brings you into the present moment. And as you're here with your right hand over your heart and your left hand over your belly, with your eyes closed and keeping your gaze on that internal landscape of what's happening here inside, I invite you to ask yourself, how long have I been where I am today? So the question is, how long have I been where I am today? And then the next question is, what truly brings me joy in my life? What truly brings me joy in my life? And then let whatever needs to come forward. And then the third being, what have I always wanted to see or do in my life that I've not seen or done yet? What have I always wanted to see, do in my life that I've not seen or done yet? And then let whatever comes forward, come forward. And then lastly, I invite you to ask yourself, what is the one thing that scares me the most? What is the one thing that scares me the most? So just allowing whatever comes forward without any judgment, without any attachment. And then when you complete that thought, opening your eyes, and I encourage you to write it down. Write it all down. Write it all down. And then from whatever came forward, I encourage you just for 1 week, pick something that came forward during that visualization and do that. Do that one thing within 1 week. So if it was, go, and if that's possible, I know that might not be possible with some kids within 1 week, but say it's, okay, so maybe it's not go to a certain country, but maybe it's, go do something different, go to that museum or that restaurant that I've been meaning to go to, or maybe call that friend that I haven't spoken to in a long time. However little or however big it was, I encourage you to just do one thing on that list of whatever came forward for you. And then just, reflect on, once the week is over, how do you feel? And journal that. How do you feel differently from doing something outside of your comfort zone, for doing something that maybe scared you, or something that you've been wanting to do, but you just haven't done it, or doing something, or making a decision on something. So maybe you didn't actually go somewhere, but maybe it's making a decision, giving a yes or a no to somebody or something, about doing something different in a change in your life. So I encourage you to try that for 1 week, and let me know how you get on. I'd love to hear from you, and after 1 week, and see how you're doing. If you're joining us, do feel free to say hi. Let me know where you're joining us from, and do send any questions that you have about the stuff that I've spoken about so far. If you have any questions about what I've spoken about, or anything in particular that's happening in your life right now about change, or how to deal or work through that, or embrace certain change that's happening in your life. And then, so, as I mentioned before, this is the last of the series. I'm paying it forward, part 4 of 4. Hopefully, if you were able to join me, then you've watched the earlier broadcast. If you haven't, you just have to go down and see the other videos on my feed. The first week, we talked about how to deal with stress and anxiety. Second week, how to overcome your fear. The third week, last week, was how to make your dreams a reality, how to go from rejection to redemption. And last but not least, today is how to embrace change. And as I mentioned before, they're all a natural part of life for each and every one of us. And it's about, having the tools and tips to access in our toolbox, so that we'll, be better equipped to deal with them when they come our way. And hopefully, with enough time and enough practice, in being more mindful, and having a meditation practice, and using these tips and tools that I've given you for the past month, the distance between, because life will always be like this for us, the distance between any of that stress or anxiety, or any of those other things that you're experiencing in your life, instead of going, like this, that, the distance between them will get bigger, and the time that you spend within that state of, anxiety or fear, will lessen over time, using the practices and the tips and tools that I've given you over the month. So that's it for today, for the I'm Paying It Forward series. I'd love to just speak with you here about inviting you to a very special group that I've just announced yesterday. Starting on next Sunday, April 9th until the 23rd, for 2 weeks I will be doing a virtual Facebook group called Nourish Yourself. And this is a private Facebook group. As always, I'm curating this group. And basically, some of the things that I do on my retreats, when I do with my clients, we'll be doing it, as a group. And when you do it as a group collectively, the energy that you harness is just so much more powerful. It's just so much more beautiful. And it's just so much more magical when we can do it live and do it together. So I'm starting that again on April 9th. It's called Nourish Yourself. It's a private Facebook group. And basically it's going to, we'll work on different topics that'll really dig deep on, inspiring and answering any of your questions on really doing some deep soulful work. And that will consist of, over the course of the 2 weeks, that will consist of 3 Facebook Lives, as well as, lots of love and full access to me during those 2 weeks through the Facebook group. And so yes, I'm doing that next Sunday. If you have any questions about it, feel free to, you can type that here right now while I'm live, private message me. There's more information on my website about this group. And again, I'm personally curating it, and I would love to connect. There's so many people that have asked me, as you know, I'm originally from LA, 10 years in London, and now I live in Barcelona. So I have friends and family and a network of people that have, been working with and following me in my community that, they ask me, when are you coming back? When are you going to come here? Or when is your next retreat? Or can you do it another time? And I would love to. I would love to just clone myself and be everywhere at the same time, but I can't. And especially as a mother to 2 young children, I'm very much limited by my commitments. So this has always been a dream of mine, so that I can, serve more people in this world at the same time. And I have a lot of experience personally working, doing these type of courses and Facebook groups online, and they are just as powerful, they are just as beautiful, and they're just as connective. You can meet, some people, you can really have some really, deep experiences and really connect with people in this way. I know, being an expat, and now even more so when I've moved to Barcelona, it took me some time to start to find a tribe of like-minded people, and I felt very isolated. And it's something I hear a lot from expats or maybe new mothers. You just feel isolated, and if you've moved, or you just feel like, how do I connect with people, or people that have the same values as me? And that's something that I've done personally in my commitment to my own personal growth, is that I've done a lot of trainings and workshops online with people from all around the world. And it's just a beautiful experience, and it's just such an immense pleasure of mine, and such an honor that I'm going to be able to do this in a week's time, and I'm just really excited. So again, that's Nourish Yourself Facebook group starting on April 9th. So I'd love if you can join us, private message me, or check my website for more details at lesliesaglio.com. The last thing being is that if you really want to do some deep work, and there's something that you've been wanting to heal for years, or you really just need some time for yourself to relax, then I invite you to come on retreat with me. And I'm going to move, because now these workers are back. They're back, and they've come back from their siesta. So I'm going to come here just for a quick second. Is to join me in Ibiza, which is my summer retreat, June 24th to June 29th. And it's just going to be an amazing, magical week on the island of Ibiza. Lots of love and guidance from me, and I would love to connect with you there and spend the week together. So, I just announced this less than 2 weeks ago, and it's already half full. So if you are at all feeling called or inspired to come and join us, then I encourage you to private message me, email me, to have a conversation to speak deeper about the experience. So it's been such a lovely pleasure and so amazing to connect with all of you this past month on Facebook Live, which was kind of, the inspiration for now doing this Facebook group, because it's just an amazing experience in a way that I can, be of service to more people and connect with all of you that I know have been asking. So, again, if you have any questions about some of the stuff we talked about, feel free to private message me or leave a comment in the broadcast, and I will still respond to them. Otherwise, I hope that you can join me for my private Facebook group, Nourish Yourself, or my Ibiza retreat. Have a beautiful rest of your Friday and a beautiful, blessed weekend. Namaste. Bye.